piece of it, it's really good to network. I know a lot of you are going to be either graduating or will be seniors next year, and you're probably going to be looking for jobs. You might be looking for jobs around here, you might be looking for jobs in Cleveland or Pittsburgh or elsewhere, but go meet people, learn how to network, learn how to talk to someone. I think it's really awesome for that aspect of attending that conference. And I'm not saying that because I'm one of the creative people on it. It's a really, really great conference. I know that this year we've got a lot of awesome speakers lined up, some of whom are Youngstown State alumni. So, hopefully this works. Oh, it does, okay. Hi, I'm Becky. As Michael said, I'm a Youngstown State alumni. I graduated in 2007, so I can now say that I have 10 years of marketing experience under my belt, and sometimes it makes me feel old. I actually have 2 jobs. I'm the marketing manager at VEC in Girard, Ohio. We're a construction company. We started out as an electrical contractor back in the 70s, and now we do a lot more than just electrical construction, and I'll talk about that in a second. And I'm also the owner of B Squared Graphic Services. Let you guys figure out where B Squared came from. It's almost as creative as Socket Knob. You know, we spend so much time being creative for other people. When we have to sit down and be creative for ourselves, sometimes it just doesn't come that easy. So, a little bit about me. Like I said, I came to YSU. I graduated from Warren John F. Kennedy in 2003. I'm a Catholic school brat through and through. I started in kindergarten and graduated. I swam in high school and had a coach who wanted me to come to YSU to swim. I looked at other schools. I said to myself, that's it. I'm going to graduate. To get out of Warren, get out of Youngstown. I looked at schools in Southern Ohio. I looked at schools in Pennsylvania. And then I sat down and had a real hard conversation with myself and said, you like being close to your parents and your family and all of that good stuff. It's probably not a really good idea for you to go to school somewhere else. So I had a coach who was actually the coach at Youngstown State women's swimming, and decided to come to YSU to swim. And I wanted to be a sports agent. My plan was to get my degree in advertising and PR and go to law school and become a sports agent. And in my intro to business class at YSU, which by the way, I didn't go to school in this building. I got to go to school across the street in the jail where you never saw the light of day for 8 hours. So you guys have it lucky. I had an intro to business class, and I had to interview somebody in the field that I wanted to go into, and thank goodness my professor knew a female sports agent. So I gave Phyllis a call, and I said, Phyllis, I want to be a sports agent. Tell me what I got to do. And she goes, you don't want to be a sports agent. And I go, what? And she talked me out of it. She goes, you know, I'm not saying that you can't do it and you won't be successful at it, but the barriers to entry and to be able to work with those top level athletes, she goes, you know, I've done it. It's really not worth what you're going to make. So I had to kind of stop and say to myself, well, self, now what are you going to do? And the NCAA has this really quirky rule that you have to have a certain amount of hours towards your major by the time you're a junior, or else you don't get your last 2 years of eligibility. So I was in advertising and PR. I really liked it. I also wanted to minor in art until I found out that it was a double major and I was going to be here for more than 4 years, and I just wasn't about that life. So I said, okay, advertising and PR, I like this, I enjoy design, you know, I'll stick with this, I'll probably want to work in an advertising agency. So that was my plan. As Michael said, I'm an As Club alumnus. I was on the 2017 team, and our brand was Postal Vault. They were a company that sold mailboxes that locked, so you could put the mail in, but you couldn't get it out, because at that time, identity theft was something that was pretty rampant. People would steal other people's mail out of their mailboxes, so that was the brand that we worked with. I gave Michael my presentation book that we had sent down to Dayton for that competition that year, and I was looking through it because I haven't looked through it in a while, and it was really funny. There was zero mention of social media. That was not in our marketing plan at all. It was print, television, radio, no social media, because Facebook started right around that time. There was no Instagram, there was no Twitter, there was no Snapchat. YouTube was relatively new, so we had none of those channels to promote the brand. So it was all traditional advertising, which it's only been 10 years and it still blows my mind. So we ended up getting 5th. And that was the best that anybody had done since you guys got third, which kudos to you. I know what you what you go through, what you had to put into it. I'm sure you've probably spent a lot of nights here at 10:30, 11 o'clock, midnight, working on the plan, doing all the stuff you needed to do, crossing T's, dotting I's. So we ended up fifth. I was responsible for being the voicer of the presentation book. So basically what I had to do was, people were writing content for me, and I had to take it and I had to make it sound like it came from one person. And I was also on the presentation team. And I also did the Postal Vault logo, which was the first logo I ever created, and I cringed when I saw it again. But you gotta start somewhere. I'm a self-taught graphic designer. As I said, the reason I wanted to minor in art was so that I kind of had an understanding of design, because I like to do that. I've always drawn. I wanted to make sure that was part of my career until I learned that I was going to have to double major. And again, I just wasn't about that life. So I had a friend who was studying animation at the University of Dayton, and I had another friend who was at American University in Washington, D.C., and God bless Chris, he had a bootleg copy of Adobe Illustrator CS2 that he sent me. I'm not condoning this, but you know, you guys get it. You're college students. You can't just afford $2,500 for a design program. So Chris sends me Adobe Illustrator, and I start working in it. I had to do, I had a creative campaigns class here that I had to do some posters and layouts for. And if I didn't know how to do something, I was calling Chris or I was calling Melissa and saying, hey, how do you do this? So I picked up some working knowledge of Illustrator. I had worked in Photoshop before, and you know, when I started my very first job, I had to design. So I learned a lot from my coworkers as well. And if there is one piece of advice I can give marketing and advertising students is learn these programs. I have worked with a lot of people over my 10 years that are brilliant marketers and have no clue how to work in design programs. My roommate in college, wonderful, wonderful marketer, works down in Texas, got a job at a doctor's office. They were a big physicians group. Day 2, she calls me in a panic. She goes, I don't have a designer and I have to work in these programs. Can you show me how to use these? So I had a phone call with Kim and I walked her through them. So if you think that you might not need to know them or use them, you might not. You know, you might go through your entire career and never have to use a design program. But if you do, you will become a marketing double threat if you can work in these design programs and work in them well. I like to call myself a marketing Jill of all trades. When I was in your spot, I had to do an internship, so I chose the Prodigal Media Company. They're still around there over in Boardman. And I got to work within the agency for a summer. And I got to work with designers, copywriters, account executives, and just kind of see and understand what their day-to-day job was. And at the end of my internship, you know, Jeff sits me down and he goes, where do you think that you fit in an agency setting? And I go, Jeff, honestly, I don't know, because I am jack of all trades, master of none. I don't have a niche where I feel that I could work in. So that's really what led me to look outside of an advertising agency in order to get a job where I could kind of do all of the facets of marketing and advertising, because that's what I enjoyed doing. I just didn't like to design, and I just didn't like to do copywriting. So I graduated in May of '07. I was looking for jobs, couldn't find anything. At that point, I was carrying resumes in my car. Another B Squared pro tip, carry a resume in your car all the time, because you never know when somebody is going to say, oh, I have this great job opportunity, can you send me your resume? I was coaching swimming. I was here on campus at YSU over at the pool, and one of my friends whose kids I swam with for my entire life, she goes, hey, AVI Food Systems is looking for a marketing coordinator. You should apply. I go, hang on. I ran out of the back of the pool to my car, grabbed my resume, and handed it to Lori. Went in, interviewed with them, got the job. I was there for 6 years. I started as a marketing coordinator, and when I left in 2013, I was a marketing manager. I do have a little bit of food background, so I kind of get what you're saying, Mr. Cole. So I worked there. I started out pretty small. By the time I left, I was in charge of individual account websites for different food service accounts that we did. I did all of our promotions, and I supported the needs of an entire division. I can tell you in that 6 years, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how to deal with people. I learned a lot about how to deal with stress, how to time manage, because I was very busy all the time. And I learned a lot about design. I had 2 people in my office that were also self-taught designers, and Laura and Pasquale helped me tremendously in terms of learning what those design programs can do. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm going to back up real quick. So after I left ABI, I was looking for jobs. I thought that maybe it's time. Maybe I'll move to Cleveland. I had a lot of friends there. So I'm looking for jobs, and I'm putting my resume out there. And for some reason, I had missed an email from a company called VEC. It was pumped into my spam box, and I see it, and they said, hey, we're looking for a marketing manager. We'd like you to give us a call. So of course, I freak out because I was a week late with the response. So I call the office, I talk to the HR manager, I said, hey, I'd really like to interview for this, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, well, I'm just gonna do this so I can get practice interviewing, because I haven't interviewed for a job in 6 years. So, go in, sit down. It was a 3-step interview process. First interview, talked about what my skill set was. They had a little exercise for me to go through. They liked what they had seen, so my second interview was to give a presentation to their leadership team on the company. So I spent the next week and a half to 2 weeks researching their website, getting my presentation together, practicing so that I knew what I was talking about. Because remember, I worked in food service for 6 years. I didn't know anything about construction, and I'm still learning things about construction, and I've been there for 3.5 years. So I go in, I give the interview, and everybody seemed to be very impressed. They were, asked me some very pointed questions in terms of what my capabilities were, what my thoughts on working with certain aspects of the company were, and 20 minutes later, I got a call back. I met with the president. I accepted the job. I've been there for 3.5 years, and I like to say that I got handed the keys to a Ferrari and told not to wreck it. I have a lot of autonomy in my job. I'm the only person that does marketing at VEC. At ABI, I had a team of about 15 to 20 marketing professionals that I got to work with. We were pretty specialized, so if I needed somebody to write content for me, I could ask one of our proposal writers to say, hey, can you write this little blurb for me? Now at VEC, I have to do everything, which is why I like to say I'm a marketing Jill of all trades. So I deal with proposal development. If we've got an estimate that needs to go out, I'm the one that's putting that together. I handle VEC's website, I handle their social media, any sales pieces that need to be done, I'll design and write those myself. In 2016, we started doing content marketing. We were working with a firm, and this year I decided to take it on myself, so I'll write the blog posts. Most of the time, I'm sitting down with a principal in the company or somebody else and getting the information, and then I'll just take it and write it and push it out on social myself. I've learned a lot in the last 3.5 years. I've learned that I have some weaknesses, which, funny enough, it's hard for me to write, and I used to be really good at it. I think from doing the advertising competition, I wasn't a problem for me to sit down and write content, and from not having to do that and being able to lean on somebody else at ABI, it's taken me a while to be able to sit down and bust out some content, and it's something that I'm starting to really enjoy. But as if I didn't have enough to do, in 2015, I started B Squared Graphics, and it's a graphic design and web design company, and I deal with mostly small to mid-sized businesses because I think that small to mid-sized businesses should have sweet branding too, and sometimes they just don't have the budget that larger companies do. So I've been doing that for about 2 years. I really like it. It's something that I enjoy doing. I like to help people, and I think that this is probably the best ways that I can help people, by helping them work through design. Sometimes people just don't have the time to sit down. They might have the skill set to do it, but again, it's hard for them to sit down and just work on this part of their brand when they're trying to grow their business. So I've been doing that. That's how I met Dennis and Michael. I was at a Mahoning Valley Young Professionals event when I met Dennis. Oops, wrong way. I'm here to kind of do today with you guys is just really share some knowledge. I've learned a lot working for the past 10 years, but I've also had people help me along the way. And I always sit back and think, well, if I was sitting in your seat and somebody was coming in and talking to me, what would I tell them that would help them along with their career? And I think that you guys are doing a great job with the Ads Club and volunteering. A lot of the times people will come in and say, well, what can we do to get noticed, and how can we land our first job? The thing is every marketing and advertising professional, they're going to take the same classes. You guys have the same course load. That's not what's going to make you different. What's going to make you different is the volunteering, the extracurricular things that you do. That's what's going to set you apart from other people in your industry. You know, if you give me a resume and this person just went to class and they might have a good GPA and they've got this skill set, but you went to class, you were in Ads Club, you had a job, maybe you were part of an athletic team. Those are things above and beyond college that people will look at. So if you're not volunteering, or if you're maybe thinking about joining Ads Club, join Ads Club. It's what they call a resume builder. And I had quite a few of them, and I think that that's what helped me get my first job at AVI. And once you get that first job, then you can build your resume with the actual work experience. And the thing that annoyed me the most when I was looking for my first job was, oh, well, we need to find somebody with experience. Great. Love it. I just graduated from college. I'm trying to get experience. Please hire me. So, talked about volunteering. I talked about learning the design programs. One of the other things that can help you stand out, because we are creative people. What did you call them? Squirrels?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Land of misfit toys,
yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
I will tell you, we're not right in the head, and that's a great thing. But we're not right in the head. Our resumes should not look like anybody else's, and this is probably one of the things I wish I would have known when getting my first job. But in looking back at it in hindsight, I did something a little different on my resume. We're creative people. Our resume should look creative. This is my resume.
Yeah.
And I know that career services is going to tell you, don't do your resume like this. And that's probably fine for an accountant, because you need to have something that's really structured and laid out, probably in black and white and no gray area. But I mean, we're crazy creative people. We need to be able to show the people that want to hire us for our crazy creativeness that we are in fact crazy creative. So that's my resume. It is as up to date as it possibly can be. I did it in Illustrator. I'm going to embarrass my HR manager right now because she was the one that hired me. But when Trisha said that she looked at that resume, she goes, it was like anything we had ever seen had come across our desk. So again, this is something that's going to make you stand out. You might not get the job, but I'm sure they're going to give you a second look if your resume looks something like that. And the standard education, that's my volunteer stuff. I did a grid chart for all of my capabilities and abilities. But really, like I said, you're all pretty much taking the same course load. The thing that might be different might be your GPA, but the thing that's going to make you stand out is the volunteer work that you guys do. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask me anything. No, I did such a good, yes, Dennis.
So how much would, as you look back at the plan that you did in 2005, and how much the world has changed now, how much of that would have changed if you redid that today?
Probably 90% of it. I don't think we would have done, I think we would have done very little print. I don't think we would have done any TV time. We also had a spokes animal. That was our thing. I'm so embarrassed to talk about this.
Works for
but
Cheetos.
We had my friend Melissa, who was an animation major. She had something, I don't even know if she posted it on Facebook, but she had this squirrel that she did. And he was really cute. And if Ponticus shows you the advertising book, he's in there. And I can't remember how we got on the topic of doing like a spokes animal for the brand, but she gave him to us on loan. We called him Squeak. He was involved in the TV advertising, I think the print advertising, and that was kind of like our shtick for the competition. But I will tell you, probably 90 to 95% of that marketing plan would have changed. We would have been using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, probably Snapchat. All of those would have been integrated into that plan, and we most likely would have stayed away from traditional advertising. And again, it's super weird to think that all of that's come about in a short time. I mean, 10 years is a short time for all of the social media platforms to evolve and for people to use them for advertising the way that they do now. And again, I feel really old saying that. Anybody have any other questions? Yep.
You said you had self-taught yourself a lot in graphics.
Mhm.
Are there any books that you would recommend? Like, I know they have, like, you know, how to build a website for dummies or stuff like that. Can I start in this?
I use YouTube. If I don't know how to do something, I'll YouTube it. If I can't, or sometimes I'll ask somebody. It was nice when I was at ABI because I had a group of designers that were around me. So we had a creative director, and if I didn't know how to do something, I would go to Neil or I'd go to Laura and I would say, how do you do this? And they would show me. That's really where I learned a lot of stuff. But now I don't really have that luxury, so I'll go on YouTube or I'll look on different websites to kind of figure out how to do certain things. The nice thing is one of our project managers is actually, he's done video production, so when I was at VEC, I got to learn how to use Premiere Pro and After Effects, and I'm still learning those programs, but again, if I don't know what to do and Nick's stuck out on a job site and doesn't have 15 minutes to show me something, I'll go on YouTube. Adobe has really good tutorial videos. There's a program in the Creative Suite, it's called Muse. It's built off of the InDesign platform, and you can build websites in it. And I didn't know how to do anything in it. So I watched a lot of the Adobe tutorials on using Muse. And I had working knowledge of InDesign, so it was built off of that. I knew how to do certain things, but those tutorial videos really helped me. And I built a website for a proposal that we were working on there. So YouTube is probably the best source